Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and I am Anna and I'm 7 years old. Today I'm going to be reading this book called Cinderella. Cinderella by Sally Gardner. For you who believes in magic. This is the castle, a horse, a tower, that's a carrot right here. See? Chapter 1. Once upon a time, there lived a beautiful girl called Cinderella. Cinderella was not her real name, but that was what her stepmother and stepsisters called her. When Cinderella's mother died, her father was heartbroken. Then he met a lady with 2 daughters of Cinderella's age, who seemed to be just what he needed. In no time at all, they were married. Now Cinderella would have a kind stepmother to look after her, and 2 sweet stepsisters as well. But oh dear me, how wrong Cinderella's father was. This was her stepmother, the sister. Ugh. As soon as the wedding was over, Cinderella was moved out of her bedroom and down the kitchen, where she was to live and work as a servant. Cinderella's stepmother was a jealous woman with a wicked temper. Cinderella's stepsisters, Henrietta and Georgina, were spoiled, ugly girls who took great delight in bullying Cinderella. Their mother was determined that one of her daughters should marry a prince. So they had lessons in talking nicely, walking nicely, and smiling nicely. She gave them whatever they wanted, but nothing made the 2 sisters any happier or kinder. The more they were given, the meaner and nastier they became. Nobody took any notice of Cinderella. She just did the housework. Oh, so poor Cinderella. Poor Cinderella who just did all the stuff, housework. Her father could do nothing for her. He was much too frightened of his new wife. Chapter 2. Time went on and nothing changed. To the fury of her stepmother and stepsisters, Cinderella grew up to be beautiful and kind. Her stepsisters, for all their fine clothes, lacked any beauty or grace. This was a pity, because their mother had great plans for them. One day, the king announced that he was giving a very grand ball. His son, the prince, was going to choose a bride. Cinderella's stepmother saw that this was the moment she had been waiting for. Henrietta, my darling, Georgiana, my precious, she cried. Wonderful news! You're both invited to the ball. The prince is bound to fall for one of you girls. What a wedding it will be! But Mama, we haven't a thing to wear, shrieked Georgiana and Henrietta. Nobody asked Cinderella. She was made to work even harder. There were no end of extra jobs for her to do. At last, the great day arrived. How Cinderella longed to put on a lovely dress and go to the ball. Georgiana and Henrietta enjoyed it, teasing her. Don't you wish you could come to the ball too, Cinderella? Said Georgiana. Don't be silly, said Henrietta. Can't you see anyone dancing with Cinderella dressed in those rags? Cinderella said nothing. she finished her work, helped her father, stepmother, and 2 stepsisters into the carriage, and waved them off to the ball. Chapter 3. Cinderella went back to the cold kitchen, sat down by the fire, and cried. She was so very, very unhappy. Wiping her eyes, she was surprised to see a lady standing beside her. "Oh, dear me, tears down such a lovely face," said the lady. "Who are you? Who are you?" asked Cinderella. "Your fairy godmother. I am supposed to come when you really need me. The trouble is, you have needed me so much, and I am only allowed 1 visit. This royal ball is just a ticket." "Oh, I'm so glad you came. I did so wish I could go to the ball," said Cinderella, "but it's too late now. I've got nothing to wear. My sisters would be furious if I even touched one of their dresses." "Stuff and nonsense," said her fairy godmother. "We don't want borrowed clothes or carriages." She waved a magic wand. There in front of Cinderella were 4 beautifully wrapped boxes. Cinderella opened each present with great excitement. But what strange presents they were! A pumpkin, 6 white mice, 3 fat rats, and 4 lizards. "Thank you," said Cinderella, a little puzzled. "They will make lovely pets, and the pumpkin will make a delicious pie." "Pet some pie, my foot," said her fairy godmother. "Come into the garden. I've something to show you." Chapter 4. Cinderella followed her fairy godmother out of the kitchen. Her fairy godmother waved her hand over the pumpkin, and there stood a golden carriage. She waved her wand again, and the 6 white mice became horses. Then the 3 fat rats were turned into handsome coachmen, and the 4 lizards into footmen dressed in scarlet. Cinderella clapped her hands with joy. "Well, my dear, your carriage awaits to take you to the ball." "I don't mean to sound ungrateful," said Cinderella, "but surely I can't go dressed like this." "Oh, silly me," said her fairy godmother. "I nearly forgot the best part." Suddenly, Cinderella found herself wearing the most beautiful dress with a pair of sparkling shoes made of glass on her feet. This is the dress. Well, "Just one thing before you go," said her fairy godmother. "You must promise to leave the ball before the clock strikes midnight. If you don't, all my magic will vanish. Don't forget, leave before midnight strikes. Remember, before midnight strikes." Chapter 5. At the palace, Henrietta and Georgiana and all the other fine ladies met the charming young prince. But oh dear! The prince didn't want to marry any of them. Then a trumpet sounded. Cinderella entered the room, and the prince's heart went boom. The prince danced up with Cinderella for the whole evening. It was magic. They danced. See? So much dancing. They even want to make a heart shape. Ugh. "It's very rude of him," said Georgiana. "Fancy only dancing with her, whoever she is." "If I was wearing that dress, I know the prince would want to dance with me," said Henrietta. "She isn't half as pretty as either of you," said their mother. The prince was head over heels in love with Cinderella. She was as sweet and kind as she looked, and he knew that he loved her with all his heart. All too soon, the clock struck 11:45. Cinderella could hardly believe it was so late. "Oh dear, I'll have to go. Thank you for a lovely evening," she cried. "Don't go, just one more dance," said the prince. Cinderella was so happy she could have danced until morning. But then she heard the clock begin to strike the hour. "I'll be late, or I really must go," said Cinderella. "Stay," said the prince. "I want to ask you to." 1, 2. It was too late. Cinderella was already running out of the ballroom. 3, 4. As she ran, she lost one of her glass shoes. 5, 6. She jumped into the carriage. The coachman cracked his whip and then sped away. 7, 8. Past the palace guards. 9, 10. Out of the palace gates. 11. Just before the last note sounded. 12. Midnight. Chapter 6. Cinderella found herself standing all alone in the kitchen in her old rags. Perhaps it was a dream. But then she looked down and saw that she was still holding one glass shoe. She quickly put it in her pocket. A few minutes later, her stepmother and stepsister came stomping into the house. They were in a terrible mood. "What a waste of time," said Georgiana, throwing her cloak and gloves on the floor. "That girl spoiled everything. It's not fair." "Well, it won't do the prince any good falling in love with her, whoever she is," said Cinderella's stepmother. "All that's left of her is a glass shoe." "He can't marry a shoe," said Henrietta. "Where's Cinderella?" they all shouted together. "We're hungry. We want some tea. Tidy up, you lazy girl." And Cinderella came running to do what they wanted. Chapter 7. The very next day, the prince announced that he would marry the lady whose tiny foot fitted the glass shoe, and that he would search the whole kingdom until he found her. Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah. Cinderella heard this with a sad heart, for she had fallen in love with the prince. Henrietta and Georgiana had feet massaged daily and drank nothing but rose water. Each hoped that her rather large foot would fit the glass shoe. One day, there was a knock at the door. The prince walked in, followed by a footman carrying the famous tiny glass shoe. "Me first," said Henrietta. "No, me," said Georgiana, kicking Henrietta. "Ladies, one at a time, please," said the footman. Georgiana went first. She tried her hardest to squeeze her foot into the dainty shoe. She tried it once, she tried it twice, she tried it 3 times before finally giving up. Henrietta did know better. There was no way the big foot would ever fit the magical shoe. "Oh, bother," said Henrietta. "Oh, blast," said Georgiana. "Oh, thank goodness," said the prince. The prince was feeling sad. He had visited every house where a young lady was living, and he had not found his love. Then Cinderella's father spoke up. "I have a daughter who hasn't yet tried it on the shoe," he said. "Please be kind enough to bring her here," said the prince. "You don't need to see her, sir. She's a stupid, good-for-nothing girl," said Cinderella's stepmother. "But I would like to see her." "Just the same," said the prince. Cinderella walked into the room. The prince saw a beautiful girl dressed up in rags, and he knew at once that this was his princess. He gently placed the glass shoe on Cinderella's foot. It was a perfect fit. "Impossible," said her stepmother. "It must be a mistake," screamed Georgiana. "She's tricking you," yelled Henrietta. Cinderella took the other glass shoe from the pocket of her apron, and at that moment her fairy godmother arrived. With a wave of her magic wand, she changed Cinderella into a beautiful princess. "Oh, I wouldn't have missed this for all the tea in China," said the fairy godmother. "It has turned out so well." The prince took Cinderella back to his palace. A week later, they were married, and they lived happily ever after. The end. I hope you enjoyed this wonderful book reading video. Remember to hit the like button, bling, and turn the red subscribe button into gray. And ring the bell, please. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video. Bye! Remember to subscribe. Bye! Bye.